Well, time to revisit the 2025 predictions for the United States, which would include not just the population, but also the military expenditures, the gross domestic product, and also the purchasing power parity of the average U.S. citizen. And the predictions actually outlined on Deagle.com, that's Deagel, not Gle, are quite severe. Now, Deagle.com is not a conspiracy site. It's actually an aviation military hardware site. And they also have a page on there where they try to predict what the economic forecasts are for and population forecasts are for all the countries throughout the world. And they've had very dire predictions for the United States for the last several years, and they have improved somewhat. And I don't know if that has to do with Trump or what. I mean, at one time, they had the population of the United States estimated to be 67 million at the year 2025. This is several years ago. Then they reduced it to, I think it was 53 million, or no, 62 million, and 53 million, then 51 million. Now it's sprang back up to 99 million, which is still less than 1/3 of the population of the United States. Now, what they're actually predicting, though, is a lot of it's going to be due to economic exodus, people leaving the country because of economic collapse. Is this true or not true? But you know what? Let me look at it. I could say one thing. I remember when they had the tech. I know this is not a comparison to what these people are predicting at Deagle.com, but the tech bubble boom bust, whatever it was, the tech bubble boom then bust, was, seemed to be on the horizon, but you wouldn't think it would be that severe, because you would think, well, back in 1999, 2000, tech was still going strong. Why would it break that much? And also, you think about the housing market in 2007 when it broke. You would think, okay, the market was ready to break, but why would the prices go to less than half of what it cost to build a house? Because I guess there was such a glut on the market. And even back in the 1920s, when they had the stock market crash in 1929, would you think it would be that severe? When they all started having standardization of parts, assembly line method, machines to make parts accurately and transport those parts throughout the nation, you would think prosperity should have been going up and up and up. And actually, after 1929, the markets did bounce up somewhat, and they had another crash in 32. So actually, when I'm looking at these predictions, I also want to think that there might be a series of waves, almost like, I've read a lot of books on the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, and the United States is kind of like dovetailed into the same type of history, because humans don't really change. The technology changes, the times change, and maybe the places change, but humans don't change that much. Human nature doesn't change that much. We actually are on a roll till disaster because of the debt situation. Now we're at over $22 trillion in debt, and I've read years ago from more responsible people, not conspiracy drama freaks and all that garbage, that 24 trillion was the point of no return. But that doesn't mean that that's the point where everything collapses, but that's the point of no return. We're pretty much close to that point of no return by some people's estimates. Now, the one thing I want to point out, here's some facts, and these they might be a little tamed down. You use a phrase, I don't know, lessened, because there's probably a lot more people that are using government assistance than, in other words, I used Google to get these facts. There might be a little more than this, though. There might be a little more than this, but it's approximately 52 million people use government assistance of some kind. And also, I'm going to bring out a couple more facts here, but just remember this. When you infuse money into the general population, not infusing money into the ultra wealthy class, if you infuse money into the general population, it actually has an effect where it's a force multiplier. In other words, if you give the bartender, $50 for your drinks, he goes out and he orders more stuff for his bar, cold cuts, whatever the hell it is, and those producers in turn pay somebody else. And in other words, the actual workers, if you infuse some money into those people, the economy that money is multiplied many times over. Now, I'm not sure, like, how that would really work with people getting government assistance, but I know if you get it into the actual working class, if you pull that money out of the working class, it's like exponentially bad. If you put a lot of money into the ultra wealthy elite that don't produce that much, well, it doesn't really do that much. They just sit on it. But here, when you're looking at governmental assistance, even if you got governmental assistance going to somebody who's not a producer, they buy from producers. Key concept. They buy from producers. So even though, so in other words, the producer is getting money from, say, somebody who's not a producer, but they get governmental assistance, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not a producer if you get governmental assistance. But you see what I'm saying? If the producers, the real workers, are still providing goods and services to these people that are getting governmental assistance, even if they work or not work, whatever. Now, another thing is 61 million people collect Social Security, and which is 1 in 5 people in the United States, or one family in 4. Now, if we had a credit crunch, something that happened with Social Security, they say, we got the 22 trillion plus in debt, but not about the unfunded liabilities, which is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and all that. Well, something happened, and what I'm looking at is, the actual, I guess you would call it a Ponzi scheme with the dollar. It's the petrodollar. In other words, when our debt keeps going up and up and up, how do we fuel the debt? Well, who's buying our debt? Well, part of it is OPEC, Saudis, for instance. So every time they sell oil, they buy U.S. bonds, debt. They buy U.S. debt. That's the agreement why we protect them. I don't know how long that can keep going. It's been going like that since the early 70s when Nixon got us off the gold standard, right? And also the what do you call it? The credit expansion, not just credit expansion. I'm talking about the government, and not just of corporations or cities and in certain states like New Jersey, Connecticut, Illinois, and California are in real bad debt. But also there's credit expansion on a personal level. The one thing that's really fueled our economy since even the 1950s has been overall credit expansion. Not just mortgages, but all across the board. Personal debt, credit cards, the whole 9 yards. Most people are in debt, and actually things are going up higher and higher. In 2016, which is only a few years ago, 1 out of 3 older adults received income from a pension. Now again, these pensions could be union pensions, they could be state pensions, and a lot of the biggest pensions are coming out of like New Jersey, Illinois, California, whatever. The ones that are giving the biggest pensions, well, they're the most broke states going. So if that stops or one of them stops, it could have a snowball effect. Another thing is these pensions are actually supported by the general stock market. They're invested in the general stock market. I know they're always trying to move the money around to the best areas, but say if the stock market did come down, well, that would be a problem for the pensions. These pensions could also be not just union, state, government. It could be railroads, governmental pensions. There's a lot of different things. Not too many people are in a 401k system anymore, that's for sure. So what would happen? You'd have to go independent. Now, one of the problems, though, is if you're in a major city, you can't go independent like this. And this is not to say this isn't going to be easy. If you're living out there in the woods or something like that in a wooden house, and you got to cut wood for your own heat and get your own food, that's not going to be easy, but it's possible. It's possible. But it's not possible if you're living in an area that, basically is the concrete jungle. What are you going to do for food? All the food is imported. It's sort of like when the Visigoths were attacking Rome. What did they do? I mean, they went to the port of Ostia and they closed off the port, right? Well, in effect, without having the Visigoths attacking a major metropolitan area in New Jersey or something, or New York or California, I think would survive better than the Northeast, to tell you the truth, because they got a lot of land. Even though the water might be a problem in South California, but they got a lot of land, a lot of open space. The problem is, though, if you have, a cutoff of food supplies basically a de facto cutoff of food supplies to the cities because of the prices. In other words, yeah, the food is there, but it's out of price. It's out of reach for the average person. In other words, there might be food on the shelves, but it's too expensive because of what happened in to the effect of the dollar. Actually, if you have rapid inflation in an economy, it's going to be in commodities, which is going to be food also. Also, food. Food is a commodity. It would not. It will also be in the heating and transportation of goods. So, I guess the only way you would really survive all this stuff is to be out there in some place where there's not that many people. I know a lot of people be trying to get out to these places, but then again, how are they going to get out there, right? That's another problem. Now, what the Deagel prediction, where they're talking, I don't think it's going to be that crazy, but I think they're onto something. I think they're onto something. I mean, the unexpected happens, and when you're looking at all of history all the way back, there's never there's never a written down historical event unless it's something out of the ordinary. The dam broke or something like that, or this country got invaded, or there was a major, I don't know, blizzard or something, or whatever. Those are historical events. In other words, if things is business as usual every single day and everything's just humming along just the way it is, that's not an historical event. But if you notice all the way back through history, there have been historical events that, that's how they got to be historical events. Something really out of the ordinary happened that nobody expected. So, I mean, just because you don't expect this to happen, don't mean it's going to happen. Not going to happen. And there's a lot of factual basis to see why this would happen. We're in unprecedented territory on debt. The United States is the most debtor nation, the most debt-ridden nation in the history of the world. It's crazy. I mean, I don't know why the hell we're doing all this stuff. I mean, we're maintaining, well, the military-industrial complex is not even exactly defending the United States either. That's another thing. That's what most of the money goes to. But, in the case, if you have a real problem, really it's going to come down to food, clothing, shelter, water, heat, that type of stuff, right? And food being number one, and being able to regulate your immediate environment, even if you didn't have shelter, that great. If you had heat when you're in a cold area, if you had fire or something like that, whatever, main thing is going to be fuel for your body too. And that's going to be coming down to hunting. Now, the things, people have done this stuff in the past, but most people, including myself, I mean, I know a little bit of this stuff, but I actually do have a few skills. I mean, I don't have any, it's not like saying I don't have any skills, but most people have no skills in these things. None, zero. And this is the problem. If you get back into, the major metropolitan areas, what's going to happen is that people are going to try to flee from these areas. And I don't think they'll be able to do it because, like, if you actually look at, say, for instance, New York City, I mean, it's an island, right? Even New Jersey is fairly well, you don't think of it as an island, but, if you look at the Delaware River's on one side, Chesapeake Bay is on the southern side, and the only way you can go is north. You're not going to go into the city because the city's going to be a problem. And you go into New York State, but there's not much up there either. That would be a problem over there. But if you look at what can happen in, if you're looking at the debt situation, if you look at the background of this map, this is like the darker colored areas, the darker red areas. Those are the more, densely populated areas. But you got to figure those are going to be the problem areas, the most. They're going to have the most problem, and they got the most people. So I mean, maybe this Deagle dot. Now they're talking like a lot of people. There's going to be an emptying out of this country because of economic collapse. But then again, they're not going to be able to go to a lot of other countries, and people aren't going to be welcome in a lot of other countries because the other countries are going to be having problems themselves. I don't know if this is true or not, but it's not that. I don't think it's going to be true to this extreme. That's my opinion. But as far as it being accurate, yeah. And these people are not conspiracy buffs or something like that. The 2025 date, maybe that's correct. I don't know. I mean, by 25, they're talking by 2025. So I mean, within 6 years, this is supposedly going to happen. I don't think this is going to happen like this, but I think something's going to happen. I personally think that during the Trump administration, the bottom's going to start falling out of the stock market. And probably Hillary Clinton's going to come back, even though you won't believe it. She's been hell bent on trying to, if you ever look at that Simpsons cartoon, they showed Trump, then they showed a blonde lady, and after him talking about the debt situation as the president. You know what? Anything's possible, man. Anything's possible. It's one of the reasons I'm thinking about going to. I already got the land in Tennessee. I ain't been up there, but I'm like, this is why I'm thinking, man. Um, but if you also look at this, Russia's actually do a lot better. Um, their GDP is going to go up by almost 3 times. Their military expenditure is going to go up about 2.25 times, and their purchasing power parity, which is like the average spending strength of the average citizen, is going to go up maybe, I think it's around 2.75 times, 2.7 times, just doing that in my head. Whereas in the United States, our military expenditures are, well, you're talking less than 1/3 of the population. I can't believe that. GDP, what is that? That's like, she's 5 times 2.5. That's about that's about 13% of what it would have been, 13%. Military expenditures about God, what is that? 5%, 5% of what it is today, and the purchasing power parity probably about I don't know, 20% roughly, 20% or less than that even. No, about 20% or so, less than 20%. God, it's ridiculous. About 20%, say. That's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if it's going to get that bad, but then again, everything's related to each other. In other words, the stock market is holding up the pensions, right? I mean, that's one of the main things that's holding up the pensions. The dollar itself is held up by the OPEC arrangement because the Saudis buy our oil. That creates a dollar for the demand for the dollar because they're buying our debt. And there's probably more people on government assistance than this is even showing. I got this off of Google. I heard 80 million. I don't even know. Maybe, maybe not. But 80 million sound. I don't know. It could be more than 52 million. Say the government assistance isn't there anymore. What's going to happen? First off, a lot of people are going to be getting the hell out of Dodge. You're going to be getting out of the United States. But then again, how are they going to get out of the United States? I don't know. But that would be a desire. Social Security crashed, or say for instance, even if Social Security didn't crash, but the Social Security can only buy half as much food and fuel and stuff because of the commodity prices going up because of the dollar collapsing. Well, I don't know. I mean, I personally don't buy into this extreme, but I do buy into the basic thesis. In other words, I don't think it's going to be this crazy. But then again, I never thought the tech boom, which I thought was going to crash eventually, way back in '99, I didn't think it was going to crash that crazy. And I never thought the housing market, when it crashed, it would crash that hard and stay down that long. So maybe these guys are accurate. I don't know. So I'm kind of just revisiting this because, even though Deagle.com has raised their projections from, I mean, they were down to like 51 million projected population, and now they're up to 99. But that's still less than 1/3 of the population today. Is that because of Trump? I don't know. I mean, Trump is not, he's not, he's kind of like a little bit of a Reagan too, in a way. That's my opinion. He's better than I thought he was, and I think he's better than Ronnie Reagan. But, it's still kind of like a lot of surface tweeting and tell you good stuff, and I don't know. He's not bad. He's the best he can hope for. But this guy's not going to be able to freaking make America great again. I think the whole thing's going to unravel, and that MAGA thing with the Make America Great thing is going to look so stupid because look what Trump did, even though he didn't do it. It's been going on for 50 years or more. He just inherited it. Sort of like Herbert Hoover. What happened to Herbert Hoover? Remember him? Back in the 20s and 28, when he got elected president, he inherited the crash, right? What the hell? It was going on forever, right? I mean, that's politics. Politics is if the incumbent party is, the stock market's going up during the incumbent party and everything's going great in the economy, they usually get reelected. But if everything goes south, everything goes bad, well, the incumbent party gets thrown out and the competitor comes in. So I don't know. And I don't know what the hell's going to happen exactly. But like I said, this to me, I don't even want to think this. To tell you the truth, don't think I'm trying to put this out as some kind of doom and gloom video. I don't want this to happen. Period. Because first off, I don't want the socialist communists to get in power because something happened during the Trump administration and everything caved in. I don't want those guys getting in power. So, I don't want this to happen then for that reason too. But then on top of it, I don't want nothing to happen this severe anyway. It would be good if you can kind of let some steam out of the overburdening debt without everything crashing really hard, but they're not. As a matter of fact, during the Trump administration, they're spending more money than they ever have before. So is this possible? Yeah, definitely. Because they don't even know how, they don't even have any concept of fiscal responsibility in the government. Not at all. And I actually put out videos before about the Confederate Constitution, and a lot of people say, "Oh, the Confederate Constitution was only about one thing." Actually, if you look at the whole thing, it was about they outlawed omnibus spending bills. In other words, you couldn't just throw everything in there in the kitchen sink to appease everybody. Every single appropriations bill had to have one subject, and it had clearly outlined in the subject in the body of the bill exactly what the spending was for. Also, the Congress couldn't forgive debts. You know how they have, they rack up some big debts, whether it's foreign debts or domestic debts. Somebody gets a lot of government subsidies and they forgive the debt. They're not allowed to do that. That was actually in the Confederate Constitution. Also, the president had line item veto, so they can cut stuff out where it's costing too much money. I mean, that's a good idea and a bad idea, but still, it was pushing towards more fiscal responsibility. And basically, it also said that each section in the country should receive equal treatment as far as where the spending would be concentrated on. That was another issue. But if you look today, we're pretty much sunk as far as fiscally for the United States. In other words, sunk because we're in debt. Debt is the quagmire. It's been going on forever. I mean, I remember even during Ronald Reagan's time, we finally went over $1 trillion, and now this goes up. Then it goes up to 5 trillion and 10 trillion. Then it's 15. That's 20. That's 22. I heard many years ago 24 trillion is the point of no return. Not the point of where everything's going to crash, but it's a point of no return. But we're going to be at the point of no return before Trump gets out of office. So you probably heard my kitty cat going out there. Meow. That's Gold Digger. She always wants attention every 5 seconds. Anyway, so. And that's another thing. If you got any pets, make sure you have lots of cat food or dog food or whatever you got on hand. I'm stocked up for a few months, and got to make sure you take care of those kitty meow meows. Or if you have any horses, horses are probably better. They eat a lot more, but at least they can pull your. I mean, if your car runs out of gas, you can hitch a thing on. You can hitch the horse to your car and put it in neutral and. Have them ride out there, I mean, you can't do that with your kitty cat or your dog too much, right? Anyway, over and out. So just thinking some ideas. Let me say this. I don't think that this is going to happen this severe, but I could be wrong. A lot of stuff before that, when we had some bad events in the economy, man, it didn't seem like it could go that bad. And you start thinking about it, how everything is related to one other thing. The other thing is, too, I'm going to add this. We have a just-in-time delivery system. Another thing is, too, we have extreme interdependence of, yes, Gold Digger, I hear you. Yes, what? Well. Okay, hold on. We have extreme interdependence between specialized fields. In other words, people back in the day, they knew how to hunt, farm, build this log cabin, start a fire without matches and stuff, grow food. They knew how to even make clothes out of various materials, like whether it was spinning loom or whatever it was, or was it making hides or something. A lot of people knew basic skills about everything. Today, somebody could be like a 150 IQ genius, but they might be totally specialized in one little niche thing. And actually, if you eliminate that guy's job, then that whole industry, if these people are starting to exodus out, the support for all these industries and infrastructure and everything is just going to fall apart. I can imagine if, the stock market crashed and it looked like everything was really bad, all these financial people would go, the brokers, they'd leave. They wouldn't answer the phone. Those customers would be calling up, "Where's my money? Where's my money?" They wouldn't even answer the phone. Or they'd have a message, "We are sorry, but due to unfortunate circumstances, um, there's been, the financial collapse of unprecedented, you know, whatever event that ever happened before this whole entire time in history, and we we are now working on it," and all this garbage or some whatever. I mean, they just put out some BS message because you know how everything is today. You don't get a person when you call on the phone; you get a computer. So that's how it's going to work with your brokerage accounts too. And you know what? The FDIC don't guarantee you have brokerage accounts. They just guarantee what's in your bank up to $100,000, right? So isn't that wonderful, huh? Yeah, it's just not. I don't want. You know what it is? I don't want to believe this can happen, but maybe it could. Maybe it could. I don't want to believe this can happen, but anyway, just want to give you some food for thought, and that's why you prepare. You prepare. It's not stupid to repair. Not stupid to do prepare. In other words, there's always a contingency that can happen someplace, and if you're prepared, you're good to go. I just hope you don't need to be prepared like something like what this might be, but who the hell knows? I really don't know for sure. But to tell you the truth, it's a possibility.